To my future wife, you didn't find this by accident. If you're reading this, I don't believe it's random. Not in a dramatic, destiny written in the stars way. I'm not that poetic about fate, but I do believe that some things find us when we're finally ready to understand them. And if this found you, then maybe you're closer to me than we realize. Maybe we've already crossed paths, maybe we haven't yet. But I don't think you landed here by mistake. I've been thinking about you long before I knew your name, not in a fantasy way, not imagining your face or your voice or how you laugh. I don't know those details yet. What I've been thinking about is the kind of woman you are, the kind of presence you carry, the kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. I imagine you're not searching desperately. You're living it. You're building your own world, your own rhythm. You have responsibilities, maybe doubts, maybe a past that taught you more than you ever wanted to learn. You're not waiting for someone to save you. You're not incomplete. You're whole. And that's why I want you. I don't want a woman who needs me to fix her life. I want a woman who has her own life and chooses to share it. If this message found you, maybe you've been through your own seasons of almost love. The kind that felt promising but didn't last. The kind that taught you what you won't tolerate anymore. The kind that made you stronger but also more cautious. I've been there too. I've loved and lost. I've mistaken comfort for compatibility. I've tried to force timing that wasn't aligned. I stayed longer than I should have and left sooner than I wanted to. Every one of those experiences shaped me. They didn't harden me, they refined me. I know now that love isn't just about chemistry. It's not about how fast your heart races or how intense the connection feels at the beginning. It's about alignment. It's about peace. It's about looking at someone and feeling steady instead of anxious. When I imagine you, I don't picture fireworks, I picture calm. I picture sitting across from you and feeling understood without having to over-explain myself. I picture conversations that don't feel like interviews or performances. I picture laughter that's easy, not forced. And I believe you're somewhere out there living your own version of this thought. Maybe you've asked yourself if real love still exists. Maybe you've wondered if deep connection is just something people talk about online but rarely experience in real life. Shh. I don't think that. I think real love exists for people who are willing to grow enough to recognize it. That's why I don't think you found this by accident. Because if you're here, reading this, something in you still believes, still hopes, still wants something real. I want you to know something before we ever meet. I'm not perfect. I won't promise you a life without conflict. I won't promise you that I'll always say the right thing or handle every situation flawlessly. I have flaws. I have blind spots. I have moments where I overthink and moments where I withdraw to process. But I am self-aware. I take responsibility. I'm willing to grow. And I think that matters more than perfection ever could. If you're my future wife, then you deserve honesty from the beginning, even before we know each other. You deserve a man who doesn't just talk about commitment but understands what it costs. You deserve someone who doesn't run when things get complicated. You deserve someone who sees marriage not as a milestone but as a daily decision. I've spent years becoming that man. Not for you specifically, not because I knew when you'd arrive, but because I knew that if I ever met someone worth building a life with, I didn't want to be half ready. So I worked on myself. I learned how to communicate without ego. I learned how to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. I learned how to apologize sincerely. I learned how to listen without planning my response. And I'm still learning. If you found this, maybe you're doing your own work too. Maybe you're healing old wounds. Maybe you're unlearning patterns. Maybe you're building boundaries that protect your peace instead of pushing people away. I hope you are. Because I don't want us to meet as two broken people trying to fix each other. I want us to meet as two evolving people choosing to build together. I think about what our first real conversation might be like. Not small talk. Not curated answers. Something deeper. Something honest. The kind of conversation where both of us feel seen, not judged. I won't be impressed by how perfect you seem. I'll be moved by how authentic you are. Tell me about your fears. Tell me about what you've overcome. Tell me about the dreams you don't say out loud because they feel too vulnerable. I don't want the filtered version of you. I want the real one. And I promise you'll get the real me too. There's something powerful about knowing that someone out there is preparing for you without knowing your name. Becoming better, not to impress you, but to deserve you. That's what I've been doing. I've been building stability, not just financially, but emotionally. I've been learning how to lead without controlling, how to support without suffocating, how to love without losing myself. If you're my future wife, then I don't want you to shrink when you meet me. I want you to expand. I want you to celebrate your independence, not compete with it. I want to admire your ambition, not feel threatened by it. I want to be your safe place, not your cage. And I want the same in return. If this found you, maybe you've been questioning whether someone like me exists. Someone who values depth over drama. Someone who sees commitment as strength, not restriction. Someone who isn't chasing temporary excitement, but lasting partnership. I'm here. Becoming ready, not desperate, not rushing, but intentional. I don't know when we'll meet. I don't know where. But I do know this, when we do, it won't feel forced. It won't feel chaotic. It won't feel like something we have to convince ourselves about. It will feel clear, like something that makes sense. And when that moment comes, I'll look at you and think, she didn't find me by accident. She found me when she was ready, just like I found her when I was ready. So if you're reading this and something in you feels calm instead of confused, if something in you feels curious instead of skeptical, if something in you feels seen instead of pressured, then maybe this wasn't random. Maybe this is the quiet beginning of something we haven't stepped into yet. And when we finally stand face to face, I won't thank luck. I'll thank the growth that led us here. Because you didn't find this by accident. And I didn't write it by accident either. If you're still reading, then maybe something in you paused. Not because this was dramatic, not because it was perfectly written, but because something felt familiar in a way you couldn't immediately explain. That's how real things usually begin. Not with fireworks, not with chaos, with recognition. And if you felt even a small sense of recognition, then let me talk to you a little more honestly now. I don't think you're looking for a fairy tale. You've probably outgrown that. You've likely seen how fairy tales look in real life when the filters come off. You've seen charm turn into inconsistency. You've seen promises dissolve under pressure. You've seen words that felt magical at first slowly lose their meaning. Maybe you've been the strong one in past relationships, the one who tried harder, the one who held space, the one who stayed patient even when your needs weren't being met. Maybe you're tired of being strong in love. I understand that. I don't want you to have to be strong with me. I want you to feel safe. Not safe because I control everything. Not safe because I promise perfection. Safe because I'm steady. Because I don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. Because I don't make you question where you stand. You didn't find this by accident. Because I'm not writing this casually. I'm writing this from experience. There was a version of me years ago who thought love was about intensity. Who thought if it wasn't passionate and dramatic, it wasn't real. Who confused butterflies with compatibility. That version of me learned the hard way. Intensity fades, chemistry fluctuates, but character doesn't. I've become someone who values character more than charm, consistency more than charisma, depth more than excitement. And if you're here, I think you do too. I don't imagine you as someone who needs constant attention to feel valued. I imagine you as someone who appreciates thoughtfulness, someone who listens closely, someone who notices small details about people and remembers them later. I imagine you've been misunderstood before. Maybe people have called you too much because you feel deeply, or too quiet because you observe before speaking, or too independent because you don't cling. But the right man won't label your strength as a flaw. He'll see it as alignment. That's what I want us to be aligned. Not identical, not dependent, aligned. I want to align with your values, your vision, your pace. I don't want to rush you. I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to perform for you. I want to meet you at eye level. When we finally meet, I don't want it to feel like two strangers trying to impress each other. I want it to feel like two lives intersecting at the right moment. Not too early. Not too late, just right. If you're my future wife, then you're not perfect. And that's good. I don't want perfection. I want honesty. Tell me when you're scared instead of pretending you're fine. Tell me when I hurt you instead of storing it quietly. Tell me your dreams without filtering them to sound realistic. I promise to do the same. Because marriage isn't built on performance. It's built on truth. I don't want a relationship where we avoid conflict to keep peace. I want one where we handle conflict in a way that strengthens trust instead of weakening it. That requires maturity, and if this found you, I believe you're mature enough to understand that love isn't about constant happiness. It's about constant effort to understand, effort to communicate, effort to stay present even when it would be easier to shut down. I've done the work to become someone capable of that. Not perfectly, but intentionally. I've learned how to sit with my own emotions instead of expecting someone else to regulate them for me. I've learned how to admit when I'm wrong without turning it into a debate. I've learned how to lead without dominating. If you're my future wife, you deserve that version of me. And you deserve to be that version of yourself too. I don't want you shrinking your ambitions to fit into my life. I want us building something where both of us expand. I want to celebrate your wins without competition. I want to support your growth without insecurity. I want to create a home that feels like partnership, not hierarchy. If you're reading this and you've been hurt before, I want you to know something. Your past doesn't scare me. Your scars don't intimidate me. They tell a story. And I want to understand that story, not to judge it, not to fix it, but to respect it, because I have my own, and I don't want to hide them from you. If you're my future wife, then one day we'll sit together and talk about where we came from, about the relationships that didn't work, about the lessons that shaped us, about the moments that almost made us give up, and instead of regret, we'll feel gratitude, because those experiences led us here. You didn't find this by accident, because growth doesn't collide randomly. It converges. You've been becoming someone. I've been becoming someone. And maybe we're approaching the intersection. I don't need you to be loud. I don't need you to be flashy. I don't need you to be anyone other than yourself. But I do need you to be willing to communicate, willing to forgive, willing to choose me on days when I'm not at my best. Because I will choose you the same way. I imagine us building rituals, small ones, morning coffee together, weekly check-ins, random late-night conversations that turn into laughter. I imagine arguments that end in understanding. I imagine silence that feels comfortable, not tense. I imagine us sitting side by side years from now, knowing that we didn't stumble into each other blindly. We grew into each other intentionally. If this message found you at a moment where you're questioning whether someone out there truly values depth over surface, effort over ego, partnership over pride, then maybe this isn't random. Maybe it's reassurance. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to convince the wrong person to stay. The right one will recognize you. And when I recognize you, I won't hesitate. I won't play games. I won't pretend indifference. I'll be clear, because clarity is respect. So wherever you are right now, building your life, chasing your goals, healing your heart, I hope you're becoming stronger without becoming closed. I hope you're hopeful without being naive. I hope you're patient without settling. And when the time comes, when our paths cross and this message becomes more than words on a screen, I'll look at you and know you didn't find this by accident. You found it because we were finally ready to find each other. And when that happens, this won't feel like a beginning built on chance. It will feel like something that was quietly preparing itself all along. If you're still here, still reading, then maybe something inside you isn't just curious anymore. Maybe it's steady. And that steadiness matters more than excitement ever could. Because the truth is, I don't want to build a life with someone who is swept away by emotion alone. I want to build a life with someone who feels calm when she thinks about me. Someone who doesn't deal chaos or anxiety when my name comes up in her mind. Someone who feels grounded. If that's you, then this part is for you. I've spent a long time asking myself what kind of husband I actually want to be. Not the kind that looks good in photos, not the kind that sounds impressive in conversations, but the kind that shows up consistently when life gets quiet and complicated. I don't want to be the man who loves loudly but inconsistently. I want to be the man who loves steadily. The man who locks the door at night and checks twice because your safety matters to him. The man who listens to your tone, not just your words. The man who notices when you're overwhelmed before you have to spell it out. I don't want our future to be built on grand gestures alone. I want it built on daily intention. If you're my future wife, then one day you'll see me in my worst days too. You'll see when I'm tired, when I'm frustrated, when I'm quiet, because I'm thinking, and I hope when you see those sides of me, you won't feel unsure. You'll feel included. Because I won't hide those parts from you. I won't pretend strength all the time. I won't act invincible. I want you to know me as I'm, not as I perform. And I want the same from you. I don't need you to be strong every second. I don't need you to be perfectly put together. I don't need you to have all the answers. I need you to be honest. Tell me when something feels off. Tell me when you're scared. Tell me when you need reassurance instead of pretending you don't. Marriage isn't about two perfect people staying perfect. It's about two imperfect people choosing to stay present. I think about what our home might feel like one day, not what it looks like, not how big it is, but how it feels. I imagine peace, not the boring kind, the secure kind, the kind where you can sit on the couch next to me in silence and feel completely understood, the kind where laughter comes easily, the kind where conflict doesn't threaten the foundation because the foundation is built on respect. If you're reading this, maybe you've been in relationships where you felt like you had to earn love, where affection was conditional, where you had to tiptoe around moods. I don't want that for us. I want you to feel chosen. Not because you begged, not because you convinced me, but because I saw you clearly and decided you were worth building with. There's something powerful about being chosen intentionally. And I promise you this, if you are my future wife, you will never have to guess whether I want you. I'll make it obvious. Not through constant noise, but through consistency. Through showing up. Through protecting what we build. Through choosing you in rooms full of distractions. Through speaking about you with pride, not secrecy. I've seen too many relationships where people say forever lightly. Where commitment is romanticized but not respected. Where vows are spoken beautifully but lived carelessly. I don't want careless love. I want deliberate love. If you're my future wife, then one day I'll stand in front of you and make promises. And when I make them, they won't be emotional exaggerations. They'll be commitments I've already been practicing. Because commitment isn't a moment. It's a habit. I imagine us growing older together, not in some distant, unrealistic way, but in small, daily increments. Watching each other evolve, supporting each other's ambitions, adjusting to life seasons. There will be hard seasons, I don't pretend otherwise. There will be financial stress at times, miscommunication at times, exhaustion, maybe even doubt. But doubt won't win if respect stays intact, and I promise to protect respect fiercely. I will not insult you in anger. I will not dismiss your feelings because they're inconvenient. I will not weaponize your vulnerabilities. Those lines are clear for me, because love without respect eventually becomes damage. And I don't want to damage you. I want to protect you emotionally as much as physically. If you're here reading this and you've been hurt before, I hope you're healing without becoming hardened. I hope you're learning without closing yourself off. I hope you're still soft in the ways that matter. Because I am too. I've learned lessons. I've built boundaries. But I haven't let bitterness take over. I haven't decided that love is unreliable. I still believe in partnership. Not perfect partnership. Intentional partnership. You didn't find this by accident because you still believe too. Even if you pretend sometimes that you don't. Even if you tell yourself you're fine alone. Even if you act like you don't care as much anymore. Somewhere inside you, you still want something real, and so do I. I don't want to rush us when we meet. I don't want to force intensity. I want to let it unfold naturally. I want to observe you, listen to you, understand how you think. I want to see how you treat people who can't offer you anything. I want to see how you respond to stress. I want to see how you laugh when you're truly relaxed. Because those details matter. When I finally recognize you, not because you're flawless, but because you're aligned, I won't hesitate. I won't keep you guessing. I won't play detached to seem mysterious. I'll be clear. Because clarity is kindness. If you're my future wife, then one day you'll look back at this message and smile. Not because it was dramatic, but because it felt familiar before we ever met. You didn't find this by accident. You found it because you were growing into the version of yourself that could recognize me. And I've been doing the same. So wherever you are tonight, maybe reading this in your room, maybe scrolling absentmindedly, maybe thinking about whether real love still exists, I want you to know something. I'm not out here playing games. I'm preparing to meet you whole, preparing to lead with integrity, preparing to love you without confusion. And when the day comes that our lives intersect, I won't thank coincidence. I'll thank growth, because we didn't collide randomly. We became ready. And readiness, that's never an accident. And before this turns into something that feels too perfect, too scripted, too polished, let me slow it down. Because if you really are my future wife, then this story won't be built on flawless speeches and emotional monologues. It'll be built on real conversations. Awkward pauses, misunderstandings to be worked through, growth that doesn't always look graceful. So let me talk to you in a way that feels more human. There will be days when I annoy you, days when I'm too quiet and you think I'm distant, days when I'm too focused on work and forget to check in the way I should. I won't always anticipate your needs perfectly. I won't always read your mood correctly. And you won't always get it right with me either. That's not failure, that's life. What will matter isn't whether we mess up, it's what we do after. I need you to know something clearly. I don't run from repair. If we argue, I won't disappear emotionally. I won't let pride win over connection. I won't let a misunderstanding stretch into silent resentment. I care too much about what we're building to let ego sabotage it. If you're my future wife, then one day you'll see that about me. You'll see that I'm not afraid of hard conversations. I'm afraid of unresolved ones. There's a difference. I think a lot about the kind of environment I want a relationship to create. Not just for us, but for anyone who steps into our space. Friends, family, maybe one day children. I want our home to feel stable, not strict, not tense, not performative. Stable, where disagreement doesn't mean disaster, where love isn't conditional, where respect doesn't disappear when emotions rise. That kind of environment doesn't happen by accident. That it happens because two people decide that protecting the bond is more important than winning the moment. If you're reading this, I hope you're someone who values that too. I hope you don't see conflict as a threat. I hope you see it as an opportunity to understand deeper, because I'm not looking for someone who avoids discomfort. I'm looking for someone who handles it maturely. And let me say this clearly, I don't expect you to be endlessly patient. I don't expect you to tolerate behavior that hurts you. I don't expect you to shrink to keep peace. If I mess up, I want you to tell me, not aggressively, not with contempt, but honestly. Because honesty is intimacy, and intimacy is what makes marriage more than just a title. There will be seasons where we feel incredibly connected, and there may be seasons where we feel slightly out of sync. That's normal. What matters is that we don't panic when rhythm changes, that we don't interpret temporary distance as permanent damage, that we choose curiosity over assumption. I've learned that love isn't maintained by constant excitement. It's maintained by daily respect, by small gestures, by remembering birthdays and inside jokes, by noticing when the other person is tired and stepping in without being asked. If you're my future wife, I want to know your patterns. Not to control them, to support them. I want to know how you recharge, what drains you, what makes you feel valued, what makes you shut down. And I want you to know those things about me too, because awareness prevents unnecessary hurt. I also want to be clear about something else. I don't want us to lose ourselves in each other. I don't want you to give up your individuality to fit into us. I want you to have your own friends, your own interests, your own identity that exists outside of being my wife. Because a strong marriage isn't two halves becoming one. It's two whole people choosing partnership. If you're reading this, maybe you've seen relationships where individuality disappeared, where one person shrank, where resentment quietly grew because someone felt invisible. I refuse to build that kind of dynamic. If you're my future wife, I want you empowered. I want your voice strong. I want your opinions heard, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree. Respect doesn't mean sameness, it means space. Space to think differently without fear. Space to challenge each other without hostility. Space to grow without competition. I think about what it will feel like when we face something difficult together. A loss, a setback, a challenge we didn't anticipate. I don't imagine panic. I imagine teamwork. I imagine sitting at a table late at night, tired but united, figuring it out. That's the kind of partnership I want. Not just romance, resilience. If you're still reading, I hope you understand something about me by now. I'm not chasing fantasy. I'm building foundation. I'm not interested in short-lived intensity. I'm interested in longevity. And longevity requires depth. It requires patience. It requires two people who are willing to look at themselves honestly. So if you're my future wife, I hope you're doing your own reflection too. I hope you're asking yourself what you truly want, not what looks good, not what sounds impressive, not what others expect, but what aligns with your peace. Because when we meet, I don't want either of us choosing from loneliness. I want us choosing from readiness. There's something powerful about two people meeting, not because they're desperate, but because they're prepared. Prepared to love without manipulation. Prepared to commit without fear. Prepared to grow without losing themselves. If this message feels heavy, it's because I don't take this lightly. Marriage isn't a trend to me. It's a responsibility. It's waking up every day and deciding that the person next to you still matters, even when life gets repetitive, even when attraction fluctuates, even when stress builds. And if you're my future wife, I want you to know I don't view you as an accessory to my life. I view you as my partner in building it. There's a difference. I don't need someone to complete me. I want someone to expand with me. And that expansion won't always be comfortable. Growth rarely is, but it will be intentional. So wherever you are right now, maybe you're still healing, maybe you're focused on your career, maybe you're learning to trust again. I hope you're becoming the kind of woman who values depth over drama, because I'm becoming the kind of man who values commitment over convenience. And when we finally cross paths, I don't want it to feel rushed. I want it to feel aligned. This isn't the end of the story. It's the middle. It's the preparation stage. The quiet building before the visible chapter begins. And somewhere out there, you're building too. Not by accident, by intention. Just like me. If you made it all the way here, if you've read every word, paused at certain lines, maybe even felt something shift quietly inside you, then let me speak to you one last time in this chapter. Not dramatically, not desperately, but honestly, because if you are my future wife, then this isn't about fantasy. This is about alignment. And alignment doesn't scream, it settles. I don't know what your life looks like right now. Maybe you're focused on your career, trying to build something solid so you never have to depend on anyone. Maybe you're healing from something that didn't work, something that almost felt right, but wasn't. Maybe you're content alone, but still open to something deeper if it comes with peace instead of chaos. Wherever you are, I hope you're becoming more self-aware, becoming more emotionally mature, becoming more protective of your energy without building walls that no one can climb. Because I've been doing the same. I spent years refining who I am, not to impress you, not to prepare for a wedding photo, but to prepare for responsibility. Marriage, to me, isn't a milestone. It's stewardship. It's waking up every day and choosing the same person even when life feels ordinary. And life will feel ordinary. That's something no one talks about enough. There will be days when nothing exciting happens, when we're tired, when the dishes are stacked, when work drains us, when conversations are short because energy is low. That's real life. And I don't want a love that only thrives in highlights. I want a love that breathes in the mundane. If you are my future wife, I want to know how you handle ordinary days, how you treat people when there's no spotlight, how you respond when things don't go your way, how you communicate when you're frustrated instead of adored, because that's where real compatibility lives, not in chemistry alone, not in attraction alone, in rhythm. I want our rhythm to feel natural. I want our conversations to flow without effort. I want silence to feel safe, not awkward. I want conflict to feel productive, not destructive. I want our home, wherever it is, to feel stable, not perfect. Stable. A place where respect doesn't disappear when emotions rise. A place where laughter isn't forced. A place where we can both be fully ourselves without shrinking or performing. I don't want you to feel like you have to compete for my attention. And I don't want to compete for yours. I want loyalty that's quiet but unshakable. I want trust that isn't built on surveillance, but on character. If you're reading this, maybe you've been disappointed before. Maybe you've loved someone who wasn't ready. Maybe you've given more than you received. Maybe you've questioned whether steady love even exists anymore. I can't promise you a life without hardship, but I can promise you effort. Effort to listen, effort to communicate, effort to protect what we build, effort to repair quickly instead of letting distance grow. I've learned that relationships don't fall apart in dramatic explosions most of the time. They erode slowly, through neglect, pride, avoidance, ego, through small dismissals that pile up. I refuse to let ego win in my marriage. If you are my future wife, I will choose understanding over pride. I will apologize when I'm wrong without turning it into a debate. I will not weaponize your vulnerabilities. I will not use silence as punishment. And I hope you'll offer me that same grace. Marriage isn't about two perfect people. It's about two accountable people. Accountability is attractive to me now in a way it never was before. I don't need you to be flawless. I need you to be reflective. I need you to be reflective. I need you to be willing to grow. Because growth doesn't stop after the wedding day. It accelerates. There will be seasons where we feel deeply connected. And there may be seasons where life distracts us. Careers, responsibilities, maybe children, maybe challenges we didn't expect. But if the foundation is solid, built on respect, honesty, and emotional maturity, then those seasons won't break us. They'll refine us. I think about what it will feel like the first time I truly recognize you. Not just attraction, recognition, that quiet internal clarity that says, this makes sense. Not rushed, not chaotic, not confusing. Clear. You won't feel like someone I have to convince myself about. You won't feel like someone I have to constantly decode. You feel like someone I can build with. And when I choose you, it won't be because I'm lonely. It won't be because time is passing. It won't be because society expects it. It will be because peace exists between us. Peace is underrated. Peace is sexy in a way. Chaos never is long-term. Peace is what makes a house feel like home instead of a battlefield. If you are my future wife, I want you to know something very important. You will never have to question where you stand with me. Clarity is respect. Ambiguity breeds insecurity. And I don't believe in loving someone halfway. When I choose you, I choose fully. Emotionally, practically, publicly. I will speak about you with pride. I will protect your name in rooms you're not in. I will consider you in decisions even when you're not physically present. Because marriage is not just about affection. It's about representation. You represent me. I represent you. And that responsibility matters. I also want you to keep your individuality. I don't want you shrinking into wife as your only identity. I want you ambitious, curious, independent, growing. A strong marriage is not two halves becoming one. It's two whole people choosing alignment. If you're still here reading, maybe something inside you feels steady instead of overwhelmed. That's good. Because I don't want you swept up in romance. I want you grounded in readiness. I don't know when we'll meet. Maybe soon, maybe later. But when we do, I won't rely on luck. I'll rely on discernment. I'll pay attention to how you treat others, to how you handle stress, to how you respond when we disagree, to how you speak about your past, not with bitterness, but with growth. And I hope you'll observe me just as carefully. Because love isn't blind. It's aware. It sees clearly and still chooses. You didn't find this by accident, because readiness doesn't collide randomly. It converges. Two people doing the work separately until their paths intersect. Two people refining themselves until alignment becomes obvious. So, wherever you are tonight, maybe scrolling quietly, maybe thinking about your future, maybe wondering if something steady still exists, I want you to know I'm not chasing drama. I'm not chasing perfection. I'm not chasing convenience. I'm preparing for responsibility, preparing to love without confusion, preparing to commit without hesitation, preparing to build something that lasts not because it's intense, but because it's intentional. And when we finally stand next to each other, whether it's in a simple room or a crowded celebration, I won't feel lucky in a chaotic way. Shh. I'll feel aligned. Aligned because we both did the inner work. Aligned because we both chose growth over bitterness. Aligned because we recognize peace when we felt it. This isn't the end of a fantasy, it's the beginning of something grounded. So until we meet, keep becoming. Keep healing. Keep choosing standards over shortcuts. Because when the time comes and we finally look at each other with clarity instead of confusion, we won't say it was fate. We'll say it was readiness. And readiness is never an accident.